Hello, a very warm welcome to you to another episode of the Young Voices Forum. A very good afternoon to you too, from wherever you are joining us from. So last week we talked about sexual harassment. There was a lot of back and forth with regards to its definition and also how one can actually deduce if they've been sexually harassed. But today we are still talking about sexual harassment, but we are looking at it from a very legal perspective, and we are fortunate to have Mr. Inusa from Shraj in the studios today to answer all our legal questions with regards to sexual harassment. Mr. Inusa, welcome.
Thank you.
I am so glad that you are here today.
Thank you.
So what we are asking is, what is the legal definition of sexual harassment?
Thank you very much. And good afternoon to your cherished listeners. The issue of sexual harassment on the point of the law, you can pick it on several forms. For instance, they call it sexual harassment because of the unwanted or unwelcome sexual advances that violates the integrity and dignity of the person. If it happens at the workplace, it has the tendency of creating a hostile or offensive working environment that affects the person's integrity or the person's capacity to work. Now, unwanted sexual advances, it may take the forms of non-verbal or verbal or physical, or it can be written. Now let's pick the form of the word physical. The physical may be touching, grabbing, kissing, and what have you. And then, so if it is physical, then let's look at it on the point of the criminal code. That is Act 29, Section 103 or so. That defines an act of what? Indecent assault. So it defines an act of indecent assault. A person commits an offense of indecent assault if, without consent of the other person, forcibly makes sexual bodily contact or sexually violate the integrity of the person. So now, when we pick the form of the indecent assault, we are looking at somebody physically making sexually or forcibly making sexual advances on another person. And that is what I said, it can be either grabbing. The grabbing may be grabbing your back, grabbing your chest, or whatever. It can also even be forcibly putting fingers and what have you into the genitals. And so in this regard, it means that when that happens, that section I have quoted classify it in a form of a misdemeanor. Okay. A misdemeanor means you can go to prison for at least not more than 6 months. Okay. And so now, if it is in the form of what? Verbal, or it is in the form of non-verbal, the non-verbal can be, for instance, even some signals. Okay. Looking at the person, looking at the person, showing some gestures. For instance, somebody may look at your back, look at your front, and then start licking his lips. Okay. And what have you. Yeah. And so it communicates. So it means that maybe when that happens, the person is communicating that you have actually in one way or the other maybe whet his taste or his appetite. And for that matter, that is something you may not want. So when it happens that way, that also amounts to what? Sexual what? Harassment. Then we are in the era of what? Technology, yeah. Where people can use phones. It may be in a form of WhatsApps. It may be in a form of text messages. And then those text messages tries to invite you to sexual advances. When that happens, it amounts to what? Sexual what? Harassment. Then it may take the forms of what? Even comments. You look cute. Today you look sexy. Your what looks what? You understand that? So those comments, when it passes, when somebody passes those comments, and it is something that you, in fact, it is not welcome, then it amounts to sexual what? Harassment. Then it can also take the form of what? Gift. Unsolicited gift. Unsolicited requests. The person may request, for instance, at the working environment, the person may request you, oh, can we go for lunch? Can we go for dinner? Something that you may not request for. Then that also amounts to what? Sexual harassment.
Okay, then, Mr. Inusa, not to cut you short, I want to touch on the, I want to be more clear about the request bits.
Yes.
So I understand that sexual harassment is defined as an unwelcome,
unwanted sexual advances. Yes.
Okay, and then you mentioned if someone says, let's go for lunch.
Yes.
It amounts to sexual harassment.
For instance, maybe I'm working here with a whole lot of people. You have newly been posted to this place, and then, oh, I have history about you that, oh, you are not married, and you look beautiful. Then what do? Then maybe if I continue to take you to lunch, then I have the chance of convincing you to accept either whatever sexual advances that I. So that amounts to what? Sexual harassment. You understand that? Then let's look at it in the working environment. When issues of sex is used as basis for employment decision, it amounts to discrimination. In fact, that is a gender-based discrimination. Gender-based discrimination, for instance, because you are a lady, you need to, you need to be promoted. At least, maybe I have been advancing, making touches, and you don't want it, making comments. Now, if you want promotion, I will have to what? Either go through before you get the promotion. That amounts to sexual harassment. Or, for instance, it may be, for instance, at the hospitals, you know, a newly posted nurse who looks very beautiful is sent to a hospital, and then maybe the senior nurse or a doctor may decide to put her on night duty. So that night duty will give him the opportunity to have one-on-one discussion. That, of course, will convince the person to have sexual favors. So in that regard, that also amounts to what? Sexual harassment. Remember, I indicate that when it is used as a basis for taking employment decision, that amounts to discrimination. And discrimination in this sense violates Article 17(2) of the 1992 Constitution. And so in this regard, when that happens, then the person will need to seek redress. Or let us also look at it in this angle. For instance, an advances are made that you do not want, and that advances may lead to sexual violations. It means that the person moves in the form of advances to now sexual violating you. It means that your decision that you do not want it has been violated. So your right to form opinion has been what? Violated. And that also violates your right to privacy and dignity as a person. So all these things amount to human rights violation that we need to understand. And when rights are violated, of course, we and I know that our laws are there to protect the rights of everybody. And of course, if you pick the 1992 Constitution, Article Chapter 5, it set out an array of fundamental human rights that each and every person is supposed to enjoy. So in violating such a right, it means that you violate a law, and for that matter, the person will have to seek redress. Now, in fact, when you pick the labor law to Section 15 of the labor law, I think Section 15B or so, indicates that forms sexual harassment may form the basis for an employee to terminate his or her own appointment. It means that the employee is signing off because of the sexual harassment that is actually meted out to her in the workplace. Because of the intimidating nature of it, it means that the employee still has after resigning, can also take action for a redress.
Okay,
now,
so Mr. Inusa,
yes.
So what is the legal test for sexual harassment? How do you legally, if you want to take up it, like how do you prove that you've been sexually harassed? Because as you said, you know the forms in which they take,
yes,
it could be verbal,
yes,
and I don't think that nobody really sets out of the house and thinks that, okay, so today I am going to be sexually harassed, so I'm going to be on the alert and probably take a recording or something. So how do you test for legally? What is the legal test for sexual harassment?
Okay, I was also going to come to the Domestic Violence Act, that is Section 1C, that also mentioned the issue of sexual harassment, and also create punitive measures when somebody, in fact, it classifies it as one of domestic violence, and when that happens at the domestic setting, the person may go into prison for at least 2 years, or you pay a penalty unit of 500 or more, or the both, and 500 penalty units. A penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis, so 500 is about 6,000 or 3,000. So now coming back to your question, of course, one act may constitute it will be an enough act for an investigation to go on sexual harassment. In other forms too, it may take several acts for you to ground the issue of what? Sexual harassment. And I think when I was classifying them, I talk about it may take several forms. For instance, today, if you come to office and then your boss look at you and smile and then actually lick his lips and what have you, and pass some comments, you understand that you may take it casual. If it repeats, then it may actually click your mind that you need to what? Begin to take evidence that will assist you to what? Uncover the act of sexual harassment. Of course, in these days, you may, like I indicated, and in that form, you can talk about recordings, you can talk about pictures, you can talk about other things. But then, if it is text messages, it comes in a form of WhatsApp, it comes in a form of text. It means that you have that recorded and it is repeated. Of course, you can take up the issue. It goes beyond that to grappling. Do you understand? To grappling and forcibly making advances to take advantage of you. Then it means that, of course, that also I don't think you have to wait for an advances to be made before you make complaint. And so, as a victim, these are things that you need to actually avail yourself with, and then you'll be able to gather evidence that will assist any law enforcement agency to uncover or to investigate the act of sexual harassment made against you, and thereafter make recommendations. For instance, in 1998, the Commission on Human Rights received a complaint from Ghana Airways. One of the female workers sent a complaint how the boss sexually harassed her, and that also that led to her resigning her appointment. And because of that, that act was discriminating. It violated the Article 17.2 of the 1992 Constitution. Of course, the Commission went into it, and then the boss wanted to use the issue of unaccounted interest to be the reason for the girl resigning. But of course, Commission investigating actually pointed to the fact that yes, the girl was sexually harassed, and of course, a recommendation of compensation was made for the girl, and that was done. So it means that we need to be conscious of certain acts that happens around us, be it at the working environment or even at the domestic stage. When it happens or it repeats itself consistently, you need to gather evidence to what? Take up the issue of sexual harassment. I don't think maybe if somebody forcibly even put his finger inside your privacy, you may consider that one to let's wait for another inspection to be done before I take up any action. And so that alone may amount to what? Indecent assault. Of course, that is also classified to the bodily contact, unwanted sexual bodily contact that amounts to sexual harassment. And of course, you can take up the issue. Yeah. So let's.
Okay. So how often do you get complaints about sexual harassment?
You see, the issue of sexual harassment, let's look at it in the perspective of Ghanaian society. How do we look at it? In fact, it appears Ghanaian society look at sexual harassment to be part of our system.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, and for that matter, when it happens, either perpetrators or victims are feeling reluctant to even come forward. To complain. But those who muster courage, like I indicated, the one I mentioned, she came forward and an investigation was done. And in fact, this didn't happen not only at the workplace, even in the educational institutions, it happens. So it happens. And so most of the times cases like that do not come. But we constantly try to educate and encourage people to come forward to what? Make complaints. Sometimes they will mention it passively. They don't want to just come forward to make complaints. And so normally complaints do not come in respect of what? Issues of sexual harassment. Yeah.
So let's say if someone is sexually harassed at work, what do the person do? Like, where do you start from? Do you just leave the whole workplace and just go straight to outside and go and report, or is there a procedure you must have gone through so that when eventually your issue gets to court, they can say that, okay, so I went through this process and I didn't get a redress, so that is why
there are several avenues within which the victim can avail him or herself with for a redress. For instance, there are the public and private institutions has come up with codes of sexual harassment. Most of universities, the corporate institutions, as well as global corporate bodies have come out with a code for sexual harassment. And when it happens at the workplace, they have an internal mechanism they use to deal with it. However, if you are not satisfied with the internal mechanism, if maybe it goes to violate your dignity, it goes to actually violate your rights, I believe you can go forward to complain to Commission on Human Rights or to the police. And so if you come forward to complain to Human Rights or police, the Commission on Human Rights will proceed to do investigations and thereafter award the necessary punitive measures that will serve as a deterrent to those who may engage into it. So if you intend to use the internal mechanism, okay, that may be okay for you, but if you are not getting redress, you can't. That's why our law system, there are avenues for appeal. So if you come here and you are not satisfied, then you can actually move forward, and you can even go as far as to the Supreme Court to secure redress on this. But I think the best way out is to look at whether your internal mechanism is working. Because if you are within an institution, you should know the internal checks, whether they are working or not working. If it is just a rubber stamp that when you complain, they will sit you down and cancel the person and that will be okay. No, then it means that you will need to look ahead of what the internal systems are, so that based on that, like the Commission on Human Rights can go into it. For instance, like if it is used to take employment decision, you have refused a promotion, or even your appointment has been terminated based on advances that your boss is making, and you make a complaint internally. Maybe it is the boss who controls those who actually even going to sit on the case. What do you expect to get by way of what? A redress? And so in that regard, it is proper for you to avail yourself externally, like Commission on Human Rights or with the police. So when the commission comes forward to make complaints, it may reverse the decision that has been taken. If it is a public institution, it may reverse the decision that has been taken. The decision to transfer you, or the decision to what? To sack you, or the decision to what? To terminate your appointment, or the decision to what? To deny you promotion, or whatever pay rise that you are entitled to. So, but if it is a public institution, then the commission may also recommend other punitive measures, including compensation for the what? The person. And if it violates the dignity and integrity of the person, that actually put that person in a psychological traumatic way, then it means that other referrals to other bodies that can give psychosocial support to the victim Because sometimes, because of the intimidating nature, the person will suffer psychotraumatic effect, and you will need counseling to bring that person back to normalcy. So in that regard, if we do not have the service, then we will refer to an institution that will be able to offer that service to bring back that person to his or to her normalcy so that she can function properly.
Okay, so let's talk about sexual harassment in school. I think that when it comes to sexual harassment in our Ghanaian context, I think that younger people bear the brunt of it. And when it comes to school, you know, it's usually between students and masters. And it's the Ghanaian context is where we have, it's like young people are not really raised to be assertive, and it's like you have to obey everything an elderly person tells you. So if someone is sexually harassed in school, how do they go about it?
Okay, I think currently Ghana Education Service has code on sexual harassment, including sexual offenses. Let me say violations. You violate the sexuality of a girl or a student in the school.
But do students know about this code?
That is what I'm coming. So, and as part of our education, we constantly try to educate the students to understand. Even though it has not gone down well, we are still doing small. You cannot take maybe just a day or two to be able to know. We are trying to see how the code can be made in a simplified form and pasted. For instance, like when you go to hospital, when Ghana Health Service came out with the patient charter, we encourage them to paste it at vented points at the hospital so that patients will know what they will get when their rights is violated by service provider. So we are also encouraging Ghana Education Service to simplify the code and paste it so that students will be able to know that this is what I stand to what, where I can go for redress when issues of sexual harassment happens to me. And of course, we are also telling them that if you even refuse to avail yourself with the school system, the Human Rights Commission is there, the police is there, so that the human rights institution will look at it in an angle of administrative justice. It is human rights and administration as well, because the teacher is a family officer that is supposed to provide service. In doing so, whether the teacher is supposed to sexually harass the student. So if that happens, then it means that it is 2 in 1. Harassment in a form of human rights violation, and of course, as a public officer, you have gone contrary to laws that has established the institution that you are supposed to work for. So in that regard, the punitive measure that she may even come out will be very harsh for the teacher. And so we are encouraging students. We are encouraging students to come forward to make complaint. But like you rightly indicated, our training system has made us so timid in such a way that we are not very much assertive. And sometimes when it happens, oh, let's give it to God. And of course, sometimes you may give other things to God, but then
sexual harassment is not one of those things.
It's not one of those
things.
God, I think God does not like that conduct, and for that matter, that is why He has given us the wisdom to create institutions to check those things. And so we need to avail ourselves or make those institutions work for our benefit, so that when students get they are involved in this act, what we encourage them to do is to come forward to make complaints. And I believe, and like civil society organizations like you and other bodies, we are encouraging you when you get in touch with students' body and what have you, encourage them. Because the issue of maybe non-reporting human rights violation is a way of emboldening perpetrators to go forward or to go ahead to perpetuate the conduct. And if people come forward to make complaints, then it means and those complaints are investigated properly, and punitive measures are put in place, or deterrent measures are put on perpetrators. I believe it will actually reduce the act of sexual harassment in the schools and in the workplace, as well as maybe in your communities as well.
Okay, so if you just joined us, this is the Young Voices Forum, and today we are still discussing sexual harassment, but we are looking at it from the legal perspective. And we are fortunate enough that we have Mr. Inusa from Shraj to help us understand legal implications of sexual harassment. But as I always do, if you are still with us up to this point, and then you are in luck, I'm giving out the first airtime, which is Airtel Tigo, and the numbers are as follows: 4515011002116323. 4515011002116323. That is Airtel to go. If you get it, kindly indicate it in the comment section. And if you have any questions or comments or contributions, kindly leave them in the comment section. So, Mr. Inusa, does the law or the system give, let's say, community leaders or even chiefs the power to try sexual harassment cases, or their criminal cases that needs to go straight to the court?
Of course, I indicated that issues of sexual harassment, the domestic violence has criminalized it. And then when you pick it in the perspective of indecent assault, then the criminal code has criminalized it. And I don't think it will be proper for the community leaders to actually go into it. However, it depends upon the form. If the form is commerce, if the form is what? Sign language, or is the form of non-verbal, maybe it has not gone to the extent of what? Physical violating the sexual dignity of the what? The victim. So maybe in that regard, maybe the community members can sit to discuss. You understand that? But if it moves beyond that to the point of what? Physical harassing, physical bodily contact that actually assault the person sexually, then it has moved beyond what the community members can handle, and the law does not actually give the community members the opportunity to what? Handle criminal cases, apart from minor things that maybe, for instance, if it is a minor theft, then okay, let's sit together and handle it. Fine. But if there are certain criminal cases, no. But then, because of the nature of sexual harassment, like I indicated, you need multi-sectorial approach in addressing the issue. For instance, if the person suffers a psychotraumatic effect, you will need to bring in other bodies to be able to what? Provide what? Service to bring the person back to normalcy. So at the community level, you might not be able to get it. So at the institutional level, or at the formal institutional level, you may be able to get all these things. So in addressing the issue, you should not just be looking at, let us actually punish the perpetrator and leave the what? The victim. At least the victim, the justice system should look at what will happen to the victim, so that the victim comes back to normalcy to perform as a normal human being or as a rational human being. And so you need to actually take all these things on board in handling issues of that nature. And I doubt whether you will be able to get it at the community level. And so because of that, we are discouraging that serious sexual harassment issues that of course indict the sexual dignity of the person. You should actually avail yourself before the what? The formal system, so that they will be able to prefer what? Redress. Like the case I cited, assuming if the employer actually maybe moved to the chief and said, oh, don't mind her, we gave her impress and she refused to retire the impress. That's why we are forcing her to retire, and she decided to resign. The chief would have actually believed this one without actually looking at the anger. But a trained investigator will be able to probe, to know certain things. You understand that? You look at certain indicators that actually, like I indicated, maybe the woman has gotten certain evidence that you need to what? Or you need to contact other people. Because maybe when it happens, you may talk to other people. Maybe in this place, it happens to you, you talk to Arafat. You understand that this is something, this, in fact, this thing happened to me, I didn't like it. Then tomorrow it repeats itself. You begin talking to other people. You are gathering people to what? Collaborate the information. So based on that, maybe if somebody is denying what you have done, or maybe I will be able to find out from Arafat what was the discussion between you and Madam on so and so day about so and so period. What happened between you and Madam? Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Arafat will be able to tell me, oh yes, on so and so day at about this at this time, Madam told me A, B, C, D. So it, in fact, it could not have been because of the impress. you understand that? And so at the chief palace, you may not be, I'm not saying that chiefs will not be able to, but then, because they are not trained investigators, they may not be able to uncover all these things. You understand that? So based on that, maybe even the decision that may be taken may either always be a one-sided issue. It might not favor the victim properly. When I say it might not favor the victim properly, of course, if you ask the perpetrator to just apologize and go, when the victim is losing her employment, does that solve the issue? No. So this is so that is. So of course. Yes, when it happens, depending upon the gravity of the issue, most of the times it is better the matter is reported to the formal system, either the police or the Commission on Human Rights for investigations.
Okay, so what are some of the challenges that your office encounters when handling cases of sexual harassment?
I think I mentioned it earlier because of our perception about issues of sexual harassment. And at the community or the social level or society level, we consider it as part of human life. It is not maybe offense to just meet you and touch your photos, even when you don't like it. Or it is not, or maybe when we are playing that I grab your breast. You understand that? Maybe you don't like it. And then that has continued. Oh, are you the only lady? Some people may don't understand.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in passing those comments, it discourages the victim. So it is a challenge there because the community does not, or the society does not encourage victims to report or to be assertive to take to come and make reports. It is a way of challenging the issue. At the other levels too, sometimes somebody may be courageous to come and report, but other interventions may come in and you may not be able to go further. For instance, a report is made and you just commence investigation and the victim comes forward, I am no longer interested in this case. Even issues of domestic violence or issues of boys sexually harassing and even sexually violating the rights of young girls. When cases come and you just prepare to move in, the victim herself and the family members come, we are no longer interested, we are one people, we have solved the issue. You understand that? And so that is a challenge. It's a very big challenge, and we are encouraging people that no, because we are allowing these things to go, that is why it is there in the system. At least you should allow the system to work and punish perpetrators. When perpetrators are punished, it serves as deterrent to others that may go into it. And then it continues to affect our female folks, because when they go to work, you are going to work to do your work only for you to meet issues of sexual harassment. That if it happens that way and you leave your job, you see that a lot of women are not working. They are not working because maybe in one way or the other, if they go, this thing may happen, or it affects some of them. They are schooling. You are in a university, you are in a tertiary institution, or you are even in a senior secondary school, and your master, when he enters in the class, always look at you in a way that violates you as a person. And so it will discourage you. You may not have that encouragement. You may not have that zeal to concentrate on your education, and that will affect you, your performance, and eventually you will write and fail. And then for women, they have been failing. There are so many things that comes to play when you come to maybe ladies failing from their exams and what have you. But we fail to look at issues of sexual harassment as one of the issues, and of course it contributes significantly to women failing, because maybe it happens severally, and the lady even fear. I will not even want to take the master. When he comes to class, I will either go out.
Yes, I'm trying to avoid.
Yes, I will go out, and then sometimes then when he's marking, he will mark, and then you will be unduly marked. Let me put it that way, in the sense that when you pass, you will fail. So if you continue to fail, then you lose courage. So these are some of the things, and so it's part of the challenges.
Okay, so what is the punishment for sexual harassment when one is found guilty?
I think I mentioned it in different levels. For instance, when you pick it in the form of the indecent assault, it means that physically the person has physical bodily contact with the person, indecently assault the person. That means that it is unwanted advances that actually physically may affect the person sexually. And so in that regard, the law says that charges you for misdemeanor, and that you can go to prison for not more than 6 months. But then when you pick it if it happens in the domestic setting, it happens in the domestic setting and it is classified as a domestic violence, then you may be charged, you may be sentenced to serve a prison term of 2 years, or you pay a penalty unit of 500. And I already told you what penalty unit means. One penalty unit is 12 cedis. So you multiply 12 cedis by 500, and that will be about 6,000 Ghana cedis. So you either pay 6,000 Ghana cedis, or you go to prison for 2 years, or you pay and go as well, depending upon the gravity or what the judge decides. And then when you take it in the form of what? In the working environment too. Of course, if it happens at the public institution and commission is making investigation, I already told you that it may result into reversing decisions that have been taken by the boss. It may also include transferring the boss. You understand that? It may include transferring the boss. It may also include payment of what? Compensation to the victim. So these are some of the redress system that is available for what sexual harassment. At a school setting, I told you that some of the schools, including public and private institutions, they have gotten their sexual harassment codes. So if you violate the code, it means that, of course, there is a punishment for that. That may include they include reducing your rank, or to the issue of transferring, or the worst form may be terminating your appointment. So these things may happen.
Okay, so we've had an extensive conversation about this, and I'm sure that a lot of things have come to light, things that we didn't know. I know that I've learned a thing or two. So before we wrap up, what are your final words, your advice for victims of sexual harassment?
Thank you very much. Like I indicated, in fact, the impact of sexual harassment is grievous as on the part of what? Victims. For instance, if it happens at the workplace, like I indicated, it creates hostile working environment. And of course, that is very intimidating. That can actually result in psychotraumatic effect on the person. And for that matter, I encourage victims to report. They should not keep it to themselves. If you keep it to yourself, it means that psychologically it will affect you, and that may even result to mental disorders. Because if you are stressed, overstressed, you may begin talking to yourself. You may even avoiding people. You may isolate yourself, and if you begin to isolate and avoid people, a suicidal tendency may set in. You understand that? So you need to talk to people. When it happens, don't keep it to yourself. You need to talk to people, and the systems are there to support these things. So you need to come forward, and the system will support you. So I encourage you to continue to what? Report issues of sexual harassment. Either it happens at the workplace or in the school setting or even at the domestic level. You need to report perpetrators. And of course, in reporting, like I indicated, our justice system strives on evidence, try to gather evidence enough, and then I told you what to do. You gather evidence enough. A single act may be okay for you to what? A report. And maybe in other instances, you may need to take consistent act. It may happen consistently for you to consider it to be a sexual harassment. And for that matter, you need to build your evidence to support your complaint so that to assist the investigating body to uncover this thing, and that's what I help you. So these are the things that I'm advising or I'm sending out to our victims. They should actually try as much as they can to understand what sexual harassment is all about, what are the procedures they need to take to actually gather evidence, where do they go to report. Shiraj is there for you, the police are there for you. You can talk to your friends will help you. The civil society organization, even if you are maybe exercising some fears, just confide in some of them. They will help you to make a complaint to the appropriate institutions for a redress to be made. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Inusa. I think that we've all heard from Mr. Inusa. What I just have to add is that sexual harassment is not normal. We are at a point where we shouldn't normalize it. We are still in the 16 days of activism against violence, for violence against women, and I am reiterating that sexual harassment is not normal. We should be guided in how we even interact with people. Sometimes you may think that it's just a compliment, but it is not. If you can, try as much as possible to limit your compliment to inanimate objects, not really a person's physical appearance. It's easier to actually say, oh, that is a nice bag, than to actually tell someone that, oh, your breast looks good in this dress. It is sexual harassment, and people find it very uncomfortable. We heard about the punishment for sexual harassment, so please be guided in your interactions with people, and when you are sexually harassed, do not keep quiet. Speak up. Try and get justice. That should serve as deterrent to other people. I want to say a very big thank you for all those who joined us today. I'm grateful that you come around every Friday to join in our discussion. But before I go, I'm giving out my Vodafone airtime. I almost forgot. So if you are still with us up till this point, this is for you, and this is Vodafone. The numbers are 38 82 22 55 48 81 64. I repeat, 38 82 22 55 48 81 64. And also you can also call the Ago She Plus platform if you need to make any report, or you are looking for us to connect you to a place where you can make a report. Then the number is 5100. When you dial it, you would be connected to someone who would talk to you, counsel you, or connect you to someone that can help you. On that note, thank you very much for joining us today, and also a very big thank you to the technical team. As I say, without them, there would be no Young Voices Forum. And that is Divine Adongo, Arafat Abbas, and Amin Ahmed. Thank you guys very, very much. So until we come your way, same time next week, my name is Rahelenchi, and it's bye for now.